Is it Minecraft? Is it brilliant motor racing? Yes, it's pretty much all of those things. It's the Grand Prix World Series from Downforce. It is the Retro Racing Managers League for those who are missing their motorsport through the COVID-19 lockdown situation. We are going to give you some absolutely exciting motorsport, brilliant, exciting and nail-biting stuff on the streets of Vancouver, a circuit that has not really been raced in the modern era of motorsport for a long period of time. And it's the penultimate round of the championship as things really get spicy in this Retro Racing Managers League. What is it and what's the purpose of it? Well, the latter, that's easy. Fun and games, essentially. But what is it? Well, it's essentially using the old vintage Jeff Crammon's Grand Prix 2 video game. 25 years ago it was released, and it was based around the Formula 1 1994 season. Since then, it's been modded by the German Grand Prix 2 community, and all sorts of different things go on there now, including Group C sports cars, Formula 3000, IndyCar Champ Car, and of course, Formula 1 for every season, going as far back as 1950. I'm Jake Sanson, your commentator for today. This is our Retro Racing Managers League Grand Prix World Series. All of our managers have chosen an ex-Formula 1 team that never won a Grand Prix in Formula 1. No manufacturers are permitted, so the likes of Caterham and Toyota, BMW, Porsche were all asked for an entry. They were told, not for you, not this season. The XF1 drivers that they choose are not allowed to have won a Grand Prix. They can be race or test drivers. It is completely up to the managers. They must choose an engine that no longer competes in Formula 1 and a tyre company of their choice. They're given updates and budgets based on how they perform over the course of the season. Heading into Vancouver after the shenanigans at Buenos Aires, it was mutually agreed between the managers that we would take a performance, what's the best word here? An equaliser within the entirety of the field. There were far too many retirements last time out at Buenos Aires, so now performance and reliability have been greatly improved heading into the streets of Vancouver. So we should see a much more competitive race here in Canada. Let's have a look and see how things stack up in the driver's standings heading into this penultimate race of the series. Well, as you can see, Jean-Eric Vergne has the chance to win the title today. He currently has a decent advantage over Brendan Hartley, but after his win in Argentina, it's definitely making the title race a little bit more interesting. Kobayashi is still there in third position and still has a chance to take it away from either man, with Marc Genet fourth on the grid, although he'll struggle today from P24 on the starting grid. Andre Lotterer is only 2 places ahead of him in 22nd as well, so it's the likes of De La Rosa, Hulkenberg, De Grassi, Alguersuari and Timo Glock, who starts on the front row of the grid, that will make their better opportunities count today. Stoffel van Dorn is 11th in the standings ahead of Paul Di Resta in the Lola. Alexander Rossi and Sebastian Bourdais still have decent points on the board. There's no Buemi or Heidfeld anymore, but the likes of Anthony Davidson and Scott Dixon are likely to have a good race. Davidson up in the midfield. Scott Dixon, though, for Simtech in pole position here at Canada. Bruno Senna, no longer with us, but tied alongside Robin Freins in the driver's standings. He got replaced, of course, by Takuma Sato, Bruno Senna, and he has points on the board, as does James Courtney. Pascal Wehrlein got his first podium last time out with a second place finish in Buenos Aires, and he's actually out-qualified his team leader, Jean-Eric Vergne. Gabriele Tarquini and Courtney have gone well in qualifying too here. Pedro Diniz and Susie Wolf, along with Marcus Ericsson. Taki Inui's got decent points on the board for 40. Takuma Sato has 2, Bertie has 2, and after Buenos Aires, Delatraz has 2 as well. What does that do in terms of the team standings? Well, it makes it pretty darn close at the top. BAR, Arrows and Manor are going to be the teams fighting it out for the standings honour, although Prost are still trying to close them down with 2 races to go. It's still wide open. AGS and Super Aguri have decent point scores, as of course does Minardi, with Simtech in there as well, and they could score big today with their man Scott Dixon in pole position. Onyx are 9th, Lola are 10th, BMS Italia put good points on the board last time out to be 11th, and Midland have now overtaken 40 after Pedro Diniz grabbed a 4th place finish last time out at Buenos Aires. It's definitely going to be an exciting and intriguing race here on the streets of Vancouver in Canada. So let's head down to the green room and chat with a few of our team managers. First of all then, let us go straight in and have a word with Topher Smith, I think we'll start with, of the Super Aguri team. Topher, this is a much better run for Timo Glock. He's had a couple of races where things have been a little bit weak, but he's definitely bounced back here in Canada. More of his usual, perhaps?
Well, the thing about Timo this season is that he's been quick all season. It's just that reliability hasn't been on his side. There have been 3 races this season where he's finished the race, and in those 3, he won 2 of them. The speed is undoubtedly there for Timo, but he's just had really bad luck with the form of the car. He's had 4 retirements in a row in the last 4 races, but him being second on the grid today, I think, is definitely a good omen. And seeing as though we've had the reliability issues, hopefully sorted out for this race. We should see him get to the end of the race. Whether he can challenge the likes of Dixon for the win remains to be seen, but I have no doubt in his ability. I think he's going to get a good result today.
Sounds like a very interesting race ahead of us. Good luck, Topher, and the whole Super Aguri team. While we're on the subject, let's have a natter, if we can, with Scott Woodwis, team manager of the Simtech squad. Hopefully we'll be able to grab a quick word with him. I know from time to time we do. Scott, pole position for the first time this season in the Grand Prix World Series. Fresh off the back of 2 wins for Peugeot in Group C. Now you're here in Grand Prix with Scott Dixon on pole position. How happy are you right now?
Yeah, it's not bad, is it? It's quite a nice surprise. I mean, obviously Scott's used to a circuit like this, having shown all these exploits in IndyCar, so and Champ Car, so he's certainly quite well versed to street circuits, particularly ones like these. Yeah, it seems to be going well, but we know that good runs can't last forever. Not to be defeated, just being realistic, because there are still a lot of good cars behind us. But then again, the nature of the circuit could play into our favour. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see how the race plays out. But Stoffel's got some work to do for ninth, but he usually starts pretty quickly. Given it's a street circuit, he sometimes struggles to overtake a little bit. But I think if Scott can get a good start, and usually with street circuits, the first couple of cars get away well if there's a bit of a bottleneck into turn one. If he can get away and, fingers crossed, get the car to the end, who knows? It could be a good result, could be something else. But we'll see. We'll see what we can do.
Well, we've got time to talk to 2 more of our managers. Thanks, Scott, for giving us an update. A great pole position for Scott Dixon in qualifying earlier, but there's 2 cars on the second row of the starting grid. Normally, it's Prost towards the sharp end, but this time Manor have put in an incredible performance. Sam Hall, your cars are 3rd and 4th on the starting grid. You certainly didn't expect that coming into Vancouver. How do you think that means playing into the race?
Yeah, we're kind of hoping that we can take this title fight to Buemi now, or not Buemi, to Vergne now. We were slightly pessimistic of our chances before this race. Qualifying's never been our strong suit, but the extra reliability that we've been able to build in this gap between the last race, hopefully that'll see us through, and maybe we can be the first team to get a double podium. I don't think anyone's done that yet. It all does require Degrassi's luck to change a bit.
Well, there's definitely luck around the corner of the good and bad variety. Let's see if it comes to Manor for the positive. And finally, let's have a word with Tom Cairns of the Prost squad. Now, in the last few races, Prost have been the force to beat and certainly have the most powerful package. But around the tight, twisty streets of Canada, De La Rosa 5th, Alguersuari 8th. Not quite where you were expecting to be. How challenging is this race likely to be for you guys?
Well, it's a shorter track, Jake, so I'm very sure it makes the playing field a little bit more level. But I don't know where the pace has gone, to be honest with you, because I thought it would be much higher than 5th and 8th. But that's qualifying. This is the race, and we're still in the constructors' fight. And if we can get both cars home, 1 and 2 ideally, then we're very much back in the fight for the team championship going into the last race in the US. So I think going into this race, I think race strategy is going to be crucial. I mean, I assume it's a street circuit, so I think track position is going to be very, very key. And I don't, as far as I'm aware with the Vancouver circuit, I'm just hoping there'll be lots of overtaking, because that's what we want in this series, as always.
There's certainly a lot of good opportunities on this circuit. We'll show everybody the way around the circuit very shortly on the flying lap. But good luck to all of our team managers. Hopefully it will be an absolute blinder of a race. And of course, it's a long one as well, this one. 90 laps around the circuit, because as Tom Cairns mentioned, it is a very short race circuit. So let's talk you round the flying lap here at Vancouver. It's Paul Di Resta that we ride on board with in the Lola, who's been one of the preliminary midfielders to front runners over the course of the year. Down into the first corner, very fast opening turn, and a little bit of curb needed. You need to keep quite close into the wall through the right and then the left. Back on the power and a heavy braking into the right-hander. Now you're on the very fast section of the circuit. This is where we could see quite a few duels as you go obviously on a 3-lane track, and even that right-hander is an absolute blinder on the flat on the throttle. Along this back straight, it is very, very quick indeed. Then you're into the braking zone. This is where we get several people try and make a dive for an overtake into the right-hander. A little short sprint down towards the next hairpin, and again we might see 1 or 2 drivers try and go for the move there. A double apex right-hander, curb on the second one to guide you through up towards the Firestone Bridge. Back on the power into the left-hand section, and then this is where it gets really tight and tricky. We could see a few drivers make mistakes here. Left, right, through the hairpin, back on the power for the left-hander, and then there's the pit lane entry to the right-hand side, in through a left-right-left section to to end the lap. It's going to be a tough old race for them today. They know what's at stake. And on a track as tricky as this one, 90 laps is going to definitely dish out some tough performances today. Let's look at the starting grid for the Canadian round of this 15-race championship. It's round 14. Scott Dixon on the pole for Simtek ahead of Timo Glock in the Super Aguri. Brendan Hartley less than 0.02 of a second away from that. Lucas de Grassi is there in P4. De La Rosa in 5th ahead of Pascal Wehrlein, the leading BAR. Takuma Sato in 7th for Onyx, and then Alguersuari 8th for Prost, with Van Dorn and Kobayashi in the leading arrows rounding up the top 10. He qualifies ahead of championship leader Jean-Eric Vergne, with Nico Hulkenberg in 12th. Brilliant performance from BMS Italia. Courtney and Tarquini split by Robin Freins in the Super Aguri. Anthony Davidson 16th ahead of Sebastian Bourdais and Marcus Ericsson. Pedro Diniz ahead of Antonio Felix da Costa, who outqualifies Paul di Resta, the first time that's happened at Lola all year. The AGS cars off the pace, sadly, for Andre Lotterer and Alexander Rossi. Marc Genet way down in 24th, and for the first time all season, Jean-Denis Delatraz outqualifies his teammate Taki Inui. Hang on to your hats, this is going to be a good one. The Minecraft of motorsport has sent us beautifully on to Canada. We are ready for the action here in Vancouver, and it's Dixon and Glock from the front of the grid. Hartley and de Grassi, De La Rosa and Pascal Wehrlein, Sato, Alguersuari, Van Dorn, and then the championship protagonists. Kobayashi third in the standings now. Vergne is the championship leader down in 11th, so we are sure to be in for some absolute heroics here at the Street Circuit Vancouver. It is the Pacific Concord Place race. Here we go, and it's a cracking start from Dixon. What a start though from Alguersuari. He's absolutely rocket launched it. De Grassi trying to hold position and station. Dixon has got a great start. No problems at all as the rest of the field is chopping and changing through the midfield. But Dixon has got an absolute stauncher. He leads the way from Glock and Hartley. De Grassi in 4th position. De La Rosa and Alguersuari now 5th and 6th. So the Prosts have managed to get themselves neatly in there behind the two Manners. But Dixon has already got himself into a perfect lead in front of Timo Glock. It's going to be a tough old race from here on in though. They know just how tricky it's going to be around this street circuit of Vancouver. But Scott Dixon leads the race in the early doors. It's the first time all year that a Simtek has led on the opening lap, as Van Dorn is going to try and make his way up there as well. On the inside of Takuma Sato in the Onyx and gets through. Cracking start from Kobayashi as well. He's managed to get up 2 places up into 8th position. So a really good start from the Arrows, but it's Dixon, Glock, Hartley, de Grassi, De La Rosa and Alguersuari. We're looking back from Scott Dixon, and Timo Glock is really close in behind there. So Timo Glock wants to make the move in the Super Aguri. This is his best chance of a Grand Prix win for about 5 races. So he wants to get straight on with it. Brendan Hartley, the new second place man in the Drivers' Championship, is now 3rd in the race, making big impressions on this championship fight. And we're already on lap 2. That's how short the lap is. 67 seconds around this circuit is about what we come to expect. Timo Glock already right in there behind Dixon. The laps will tick away pretty quickly. And obviously, as Tom Cairns mentioned pre-show, team boss of Prost, there is going to be a big omen on team strategy. But Timo Glock is definitely going to give Scott Dixon a bit of a push as they come down the back straight. So is there going to be an opportunity? Certainly not at the moment for Timo Glock. He's close but not close enough. And Takuma Sato is going to try and come around the outside of Stoffel Van Dorn. Van Dorn is not letting him go, but Kobayashi has got the move done on Pascal Wehrlein, by the way. So Kobayashi now up into 7th position. A great comeback from the Arrows. So Kamui Kobayashi trying to get himself back into championship winning contention, much to the delight of Emma Butterworth, team boss of the Arrows squad. So they will be rip-roaring around this circuit. It's not going to be too long before Timo Glock gets the challenge. On to Scott Dixon out in front. The Simtek, with an absolute flyer in qualifying, was fastest in both sessions. So definitely with the best opportunity. And a 64.6 second. You can see, obviously, down the main straight, they don't actually keep it bang on straight all the way through, because there are quite a few bumps on that home stretch. So the drivers have to move slightly across off the line in order to basically avoid the worst parts of the course, and that's to look after the cars, essentially. That's Davidson dueling away with Sebastian Bourdais. We're on lap 3, and already there's some pretty exciting stuff coming in from our drivers as they fly their way onto the back straight. The top 10 cars are the ones that get through into the points as we watch Anthony Davidson dueling there with Sebastian Bourdais in the Onyx. The Minecraft of motorsport giving us plenty of entertainment. But here comes Bourdais up the inside of Davidson. So Sebastian Bourdais will get through and makes the overtaking move. So that is the important one for the position there. Oh, Pedro Diniz having a bit of an issue with his teammate there, Marcus Ericsson. So civil war at Midland briefly. And it looks as though Dixon has dropped down. Dixon's had a spin. Dixon has spun it from the lead. Let's see what's happened to Scott Dixon. He's had a bit of pressure from Timo Glock. I wonder, did he make a mistake or did Glock try to go for him? Let's have a look. Oh, he's missed it. He's missed it himself. He nudges the barrier and spins. Oh, my word. Scott Dixon throws away the lead here at Vancouver. The best chance yet of a Simtek taking a victory. And Scott Dixon is now facing the wrong way with the oncoming traffic storming past him. That is an absolute hammer blow for Scott Dixon and the Simtek team. There goes the chance of victory. And Scott Dixon will be bitterly embarrassed about that one. He just missed his braking point and unfortunately throws away the lead. Well, that gives Timo Glock the advantage up front. A driving error from Scott Dixon, very rare. But the New Zealander unfortunately bins it while leading on lap 3. And so it's Timo Glock that leads now from Hartley, De La Rosa, De Grassi, Alguersuari. So De La Rosa making the move on De Grassi. Lots of overtaking moves already, considering it's a street track. That's pretty good going. And here comes Takuma Sato making his move on the inside of Pascal Wehrlein. And he gets through. Nicely done. And behind, that's Robin Freins trying to get the move on Hulkenberg. Hulkenberg doesn't let him get through either. But we're on board with Brendan Hartley. Now, this is a stunning opportunity for Hartley because Verne is in 13th place. Hartley is in 2nd. If Hartley gets the win today and Verne doesn't score, it sets us up with a showdown between the two drivers for Laguna Seca with, if Hartley were to win today, 3 wins apiece. Now that really would be an incredible showdown. Pascal Wehrlein trying to keep himself in the hunt at the moment. 9th position. There is the Prost, the Pedro de la Rosa. He's letting qualifying become ancient history pretty quickly. It's Super Aguri, Mana, Prost, Arrows, Simtek. And then it is the Onyx of Takuma Sato. What's happened to Scott Dixon? Well, he's got going again, but I'm afraid he is down at the back of the field, having led in the early stages. A big mistake for Scott Dixon, and the Kiwi is now down in 26th. So the race continues here in Vancouver. He was lucky to get away without damage, to be fair, and up the inside, that's Verne. Verne is making his bid to get past James Courtney, and he's got through. So Jean-Eric Vergne gets through into 12th position, and here comes the move from... that is the AGS getting through there. So a nice overtake from Andre Lotterer. So Lotterer gets past Anthony Davidson as the race battle continues. That's for 16th place. But it's Glock who leads from the manor of Brendan Hartley. 3rd place is Pedro de la Rosa. As we come into these final 2 races of the year, it's definitely going to be a tight fight in the team standings. Lots of opportunities for teams to get it right and teams to get it wrong. BAR's massive advantage coming into the second half of the season has been chipped away at the likes of Super Aguri, Prost and Mana. And now Mana is dangerously getting closer to their points tally. 2nd and 4th for Hartley and De Grassi. There's Paul Di Resta in the Lola. And I have to say, Paul Di Resta today has had to really stand up and pay attention because he was outclassed in qualifying by Antonio Felix da Costa, his teammate. But off the start, Di Resta has definitely bounced back into a strong position. Meanwhile, Scott Dixon at the back of the field in the Simtek is now onto the tail of the back markers, so he is going to try and charge his way through. We'll see where he ends up, but a frustrated Scott Dixon probably can't believe his misfortune there, having made the mistake of such a magnitude. But we're on board with Pedro de la Rosa as he looks back to Lucas Di Grassi in the manner as they complete lap 6. We're on to the 7th lap of 90 now, but these are very short laps, so the race distance goes pretty quickly. So let's have a look and see where the drivers are in terms of their fuel strategies. We will find out, of course, as they come through. But Timo Glock leading the way. Now, he's on a short stint. I think this is going to be a 2-stop strategy, maybe even a 3-stop strategy for Glock. Hartley in the manor is definitely on a 2-stopper by the look of that. Prost might be on a 3. De Grassi's on a 2-stopper by the look of it. Alguersuari likewise. Kobayashi might be going for a 3. Van Dorn is going for a 2-stopper. Sato for a 3. Hulkenberg for 2. Vergne looks like he's going on a one-stop strategy for BAR. That is an astonishing opportunity, unless he converts it into a slim couple of sectors at the end, slim couple of stints at the end, sorry, to turn it into a two-stop strategy. But that BAR will be very heavy. Frein's in the Super Aguri. Looks like he's going for a three-stopper. So is Vergne. So is Courtney. Bourdais looks like he's on a two-stop. Tarquini's going very long, even longer with his car, and it looks like the BMS Italia might be on a one-stop strategy. That would be brave. Lotterer in the AGS going on a three-stopper by the look of it. Davidson and Minardi on a one-stopper. Ericsson looking at 3. Denise looking at 3. De Resta also. Alex Rossi looks like he's on a two-stop strategy. Da Costa's going very heavy on the Lola. That's why he got outclassed by his teammate at the start. Taki Inui is going on a two-stopper, I think. So is Marc Genet, and so is Scott Dixon, but he's got time to make up, and he has got past Jean-Denis Delatraz in the 40 already, who looks to me like he's on a three-stopper. So that gives you a rough idea as to where the drivers are in terms of their strategies. And so far in the race, not a single retirement, although we have had a very dramatic exit from the lead for Dixon. He has now recovered and is starting to make progress up through the field as Marc Genet gets up the inside of Taki Inui in the 40. See, that's the amazing thing about this Vancouver circuit. While it is a street circuit, there are elements of the course which are quite wide. And Brendan Hartley making the mistake there. Dear oh dear, Brendan Hartley missing a gear into the first corner. I wonder if they've got a problem developing, because De La Rosa is right there in third position, hungry to take the place away as Timo Glock stretches out his lead in the Super Aguri out in front. So far so good in the race here at Vancouver. And obviously it's great to have your company again watching along. Topher Smith has apparently found a tweet of Nico Rosberg's. Is Scott Dixon's F1 career over? I don't know how legitimate that is, but that sounds very much like the sort of tweet you might find from Nico Rosberg. I can see the jokes coming in already. So, Timo Glock running out in front. Running a reasonably good race here at the moment. Edward Hunter watching along. Group C winner in the TWR Jaguar squad. And oh, that's Davidson nearly losing ground there too. Paul De Resta. So De Resta in the Lola trying to get his way through on the inside into 19th position past Davidson in the Minardi. Marc Genet doesn't have a lot of pace. And AGS have converted a difficult qualifying session at 22nd or 23rd. Lotter is now 16th and Rossi's 21st. So they are making up ground. But certainly for Lotterer, it looks as though they've gone on a three-stop strategy to try and make the difference count. So it is going to be a very tricky race from their point of view. And so the race will continue on. For those who are watching along thinking, what on earth am I watching? This is the Minecraft of motorsport, it has been coined. And that is based on Grand Prix 2 from Jeff Crammond, a game released back in 1995. There are no drivers here, just managers managing the team's progress. And there are plenty of leagues coming, with various different categories, as De Resta makes his move on the inside of Davidson. This time he's going to get there, so the Lola gets through. This is the Grand Prix World Series, where ex-Formula 1 teams that never won a dime in Formula 1 get to compete against each other. And the managers choose their drivers based on whether they won a race in Grand Prix racing or not. The criteria for this one is that they didn't. So Timo Glock is leading in the Super Aguri, in front of Hartley and De La Rosa. Fascinating battles around this circuit already. Ryan Ferris have said that if he was driving for BAR, it would be the end of his career. Obviously making point of Tom Butterworth's draconian management techniques earlier in the year when he dropped Sebastian Buemi and promptly regretted it initially because, of course, Pascal Wehrlein took about 5 races to get up to speed. Here comes Dixon, making the move up the inside of Marc Genet. No issues there, but he does need to get on with things and charge his way back through the field. Not an easy situation when he was on pole position for this race and ended up spinning off on lap 3 while leading. He was lucky not to pick up any damage to the car, to be perfectly honest. But Brendan Hartley is now under severe pressure from Pedro De La Rosa as the cars make their way through the final S's of the course. Left, right, left, and he's trying to stay within about 3 seconds or so of Timo Glock in the Super Aguri up front. But great to see the drivers under duress here at Vancouver. We're on lap 12 of 90. They are going quickly, but then each lap is just over 60 seconds around this Vancouver circuit. It's the shortest track on the calendar, but it's definitely one of the more exciting. So the field will continue to give us plenty of drama and lots of intrigue. And here's Kamui Kobayashi in 6th position, chasing down Jaime Alguersuari. The Japanese taking on the Spaniard. And so the field is still very closely battled. Very evenly paced around this very short circuit. This track is not about pace. It's about mechanical grip around the circuit. And they all know the sort of issues that will cause difficulties. But Brendan Hartley is there in second position at the moment in the Manor. A very decent run so far. So as the field continues and Brendan Hartley still finds himself in a decent position, and every race this kind of performance comes from him, he's going to have more points to add to his championship tally, close up on Jean-Eric Vergne, and there could be a showdown between those two drivers when they come to Laguna Seca. So, as much as I said coming into the race that Vergne could win the title today, it doesn't look like he's going to. He's in 10th position at the moment, the BAR, so he is trying to make progress on a 3-stop strategy. But it is a very difficult scenario. Hartley is trying to gain as much ground as possible, but Timo Glock is back, and good to back to his best again. So the Super Aguri is running a great race. Here's Dixon making another move, this time on the inside of Antonio Felix da Costa in the Lola. But as Remco van Engelen points out on this circuit, at least you have some good overtaking points here at the Concord Pacific Place. This is the slightly updated layout. They were racing here in the mid-90s in IndyCar, in the PPG Champ Car days, but of course after 1997 the track changed and it's the current layout that they're on now. And this has definitely got a lot of fast sweepers and some good opportunities for overtaking. Of course, the old circuit did cover a lot of the ground of this same layout. There were some changes. Oh, and Glock! Glock has had a problem! Glock is out of it! An oil leak for Glock! Oh, I don't believe it! Timo Glock leading and is out on lap 14. That is absolutely disastrous for Timo Glock. The Super Aguri is out. An oil leak while leading, and it's now Brendan Hartley who leads the race from De La Rosa and Di Grassi. Well, that is absolutely heartbreaking for Timo Glock. He can't quite believe it. Look, the car is on fire, and the marshal has only just been able to get down there in time now. But I'm afraid Timo Glock, the race leader in the Super Aguri, is out. And that is absolutely heartbreaking when Glock was looking so strong in this race. But he becomes the first retirement here in Vancouver. So Hartley is the new leader from De La Rosa and Di Grassi. And actually, that is not good news for the BAR team, because they really didn't want Brendan Hartley to be the man to take a victory here today if Vergne isn't going to score high, because that really will slice Vergne's lead in half. Possibly even more than that. There'll be only a handful of points between the two drivers if things continue as they currently are. But Antonio Felix da Costa there, seeing out his season with the Lola team after Susie Wolff was given a race ban after ignoring blue flags at Shah Alam in Malaysia and in Fuji in Japan. And as a hand of friendship from Super Aguri to Lola, they decided to loan them Antonio Felix da Costa for the last 3 races of the season in order to assess him for a race drive in 2020. Well, in season 2, I should say, because it could well happen in 2020. But Tom Butterworth, team boss at BAR, points out the curse of the leader strikes again. It's happened quite a few times over the course of the Downforce Grand Prix World Series. It's happened twice in this race. Dixon spinning out at exactly the same corner as Timo Glock has just pulled off with an oil leak. And the car obviously catching fire with the oil leak. Now the other drivers have got to be very careful, because there will be points on the circuit where the cars will be more vulnerable. But drama already aplenty here. And it's Brendan Hartley that leads the way from Pedro De La Rosa and Lucas Di Grassi. Teammate to De La Rosa, Alguersuari is in 4th. So it's Mana Prost, then Kobayashi going well ahead of Takuma Sato, the 2 Japanese drivers for Arrows and Onyx. Then Van Dorn in the Simtek, Hulkenberg in the Arrows, Jean-Eric Vergne is 9th in the BAR, and 10th is the other Super Aguri of Robin Freins. Then it's Courtney, Bourdais and Pascal Wehrlein, who's down in 13th place with that heavy fuel load. So he is hemorrhaging time, Pascal Wehrlein. You've got to be so careful in terms of the balance of strategy, but this is a tricky pit lane here, so those drivers that have decided to go on a one-stop strategy, definitely looks like there could be a few teams that have decided to go for an alternative route. Now, Sam Hall has pointed out, if people could stop mentioning the curse of the leader, the man of Pitwall would be eternally grateful. Well, of course they would. Brendan Hartley's leading, and if he wins the race here today, then that will be his 3rd win of the season, which will level him with Jean-Eric Vergne, and of course will give us a title showdown at Laguna Seca in California. So that is going to be absolutely sensational stuff. That race will take place on Saturday afternoon to close out the Grand Prix season. There will be more Formula 1 racing in the Retro Racing Managers League over the course of the year. There's going to be a Vintage League, which will have 2 grids, a 50s grid and a 60s grid, 2 separate championships running on the same night, on the same day, I should say. One will be an afternoon race, one will be an evening race. And there's also going to be a Super 70s package. You can either choose to race F1 or touring cars, but all of them will be from the 1970s. And there is going to be a Formula 1 career mode, we can tell you, and the career mode will start in 1980. So you'll be controlling the teams from about that sort of era. And we have decided to allow a special dispensation for teams that didn't manage to get into Formula 1 to have another crack of it if anybody wants to take them on. But it will be teams and drivers from Formula 1 in that period. So there will be some entries open. We'll give you the short list of teams that will be allowed to compete in each year. And it'll be up to whoever wants to run them to basically put their entry in. But if there's more than 13, of course, there's going to be pre-qualifying, which means that qualifying will be broadcast for the first time, and managers will find out if their cars will actually get through or not. So let's see how it all works out. Across the line, and that is Davidson trying to fend off from Scott Dixon, the former race leader. We now look back to Pedro de la Rosa in the Prost. So Delatraz actually running ahead of his teammate, Taki Inui, for once. So the 40's going well all season, and Delatraz picking up 2 points last time out at Argentina just by staying in the race, essentially. I think he managed to get that performance predominantly through prayer and through spiritual guidance in that car. But Delatraz is still a point scorer, which means that every single competitor in this field except one have now scored championship points. The other one is Antonio Felix da Costa, who retired last time out in Argentina, despite running very competitively in the early few laps of his racing career in this particular category. Tom Butterworth pointing out he's actually happy with Pascal Wehrlein's strategy. Hopefully should beat the 3 stoppers and be in and around the mix of the 2 stoppers. So, well, that's fighting talk there from Tom Butterworth. And speaking about the 3 stoppers, it's only going to be a handful of laps now before the 3-stop strategists decide that they're going to come into the pits for the first time. Of course, there could be a few teams looking at the pit stops, the way they're going, and looking at how much time they're losing, and decide to convert their strategy mid-race. And Jean-Eric Vergne has just pointed out, Tom Butterworth has pointed out that Vergne has just passed Nico Hulkenberg. Now that is very important, because Vergne is now showing himself to be the fastest car on track, and with Brendan Hartley in the lead, who can blame him? We're on lap 20 of 90. They are going quickly, these laps, as Stoffel Van Dorn hops over the curbs at the final part of the course, and he's running in 7th place. Look back, there is Vergne. There is Jean-Eric Vergne, championship leader in the BAR. He's made great progress in this race so far, and he's up to P8. That's worth 4 points, which means he'll lose 21 to Brendan Hartley. But of course, when you've got a fairly reasonable points advantage, you've got to be very careful how many points you're going to lose. So they'll be keeping an eye on that all the way through the race, of course, naturally. So the battle is obviously very, very tight here in the Retro Racing Managers League Grand Prix season. They want to put on a show. They want to keep us very much in the loop. But the racing was always going to be very tough here at the bottom end of the championship. Here in Vancouver, in Canada, on the street circuit. Here comes Dixon, making his bid to get up into the top half of the grid again as he goes side by side with the AGS of Andre Lotterer and gets through. Nice move from Dixon. Full commitment as he tries to repair the damage from his earlier spin while leading. Very exciting so far, and it just keeps getting more intense in this field. As the drivers continue to put in a decent show, they obviously want to put in a good run. So we'll see how the competitors continue to run, but it is obviously a very, very difficult race battle. Now, if Vergne were to finish where he is in 8th place, he'll score 4 points. Hartley will score 25 for the victory. This is Brendan Hartley, and that means that Vergne would lose 21 points to him. His lead is 31 points at the moment. So that would give him just a 10-point advantage heading into Laguna Seca if it stays like this. But Vergne has no intention of letting it stay like that. He wants to make up as many places as he can after a tricky qualifying. and get himself back into a decent contention. Here's Diniz making his bid up on the inside of on the inside of Gabriele Tarquini, and he has got through. Now here's Robin Frines. Now he's being pressed by the Australian James Courtney, so Courtney's giving him plenty of hustle in this race. Robin Frines now in the sole remaining Super Aguri, not the position he wanted to find himself in, but he's obviously in a very difficult situation now as the field continues on its way around. Down the back straight. It's been a tough old season this at Kyalami, the first round of the championship. We had Nick Heidfeld grabbing the pole position and Kamui Kobayashi taking the victory in the Arrows, with the fastest lap of the race coming from BAR's Sebastian Buemi. At Marrakesh, it was all about AGS. Rossi got the pole and the fastest lap, but a mechanical problem handed the victory to his teammate Andre Lotterer in the final reckoning. A clean sweep for Jean-Eric Vergne at Bathurst followed. Pole position, fastest lap and the race win. And we got 4 different teams and 4 different winners in the first 4 races at Taupo when Marc Genet took the victory after a pole position for Sebastian Buemi and a fastest lap for Nick Heidfeld. The reverse of Kyalami. Then at Estoril in Portugal, we had a thrilling race actually. Jean-Eric Vergne got the pole position and his teammate Sebastian Buemi got the fastest lap as Takuma Sato pits in, as does Kobayashi. So Sato and Kobayashi decide to blink first and make pit stops, as does Vergne. So it's all happening down there in pit road. Let's have a look at it. Sato is in, obviously, as we know. And oh, that's Robin Frines coming in and Kobayashi going out. So Kobayashi has leapfrogged Takuma Sato. That was an important pit stop jump there. And Kobayashi's made good work of it. Here's Tarquini. Cars coming out of the pits at the same time. Kobayashi right in front of Tarquini. Sato comes out directly in front of Dixon. Where's Vergne? Where's Vergne? There he is. So Jean-Eric Vergne making the mistake out of the first corner and almost having an issue. De Resta dueling with the 40 as the 40 comes into the pits. Well, I was talking about the state of play, and Vergne got the pole position and Buemi got the fastest lap at Estoril in Portugal, but neither car was able to bring it home to the victory. That was Kamui Kobayashi in the Arrows for his second win of the year, and they haven't won a race since, I should point out. At Brno, it was all about Jean-Eric Vergne. He got the pole position and the race win, but Hulkenberg in the Arrows managed to snatch the fastest lap from him. And then we had at the Pau Grand Prix on the streets of France, Pedro de la Rosa got pole position and fastest lap, but a mechanical problem put him out, and that gave the victory to Brendan Hartley, his first win of the year in the manor. Then we had the Birmingham meeting, where we had some brilliant performances from our celebrity drivers, Michel Vaillant getting the pole position and Jimmy Bly taking the race victory. Then in the Birmingham Super Prix itself, it was again De La Rosa with the pole position and the fastest lap. Is that Vergne making his way back past Davidson? Yes, it is. So Vergne retakes the place from Davidson up to 13th. That's critical after his first pit stop. And that means he's not going to get held up quite so much. From his point of view, that is invaluable. As into the pits, we've had De La Rosa come in and drop down to 7th place now. Timo Glock got the win at the Birmingham Super Prix and at Helsinki earlier in the year after he got the clean sweep in Finland. And then round 10, he got another pole position at Chennai in India, but Alguersuari got the fastest lap, and Jean-Eric Vergne in the BAR for the 3rd time got the race win, and that's how he's held an incredible lead in the Drivers' Championship since that point. Shah Alam in Malaysia, Sato got the pole, but De La Rosa got the fastest lap and the race win. And Sato got pole again on home turf in Fuji, but retired early, sadly. And it was Vergne who got the fastest lap, Alguersuari in the Prost, who took his first win of the year. And then at Buenos Aires last time out, well, all hell broke loose. De La Rosa got the pole, but Kamui Kobayashi got the fastest lap, fighting back up the order, and Brendan Hartley took the victory when only 9 cars crossed the finish line. Here's De La Rosa again, making his way past Bourdais, up to the inside line. And that's a critical overtaking move for De La Rosa on a 3-stop strategy, needing to get rid of one of the 2 stoppers early. And now, of course, we've got 2 races to go here at Vancouver and next time out at Laguna Seca. Now, the 40's causing a bit of aggro here. So, some big issues here from the 40. Topher Smith in the Super Aguri really irritated with the AGS squad. Get that AGS out the way, he's screaming on the timing screen, but not a lot he can do about it. Hartley, De Grassi, Alguersuari, Van Dorn is 4th now thanks to the pit stops. Hulkenberg next up, and that's the Arrows trying to come around the outside of Delatraz. That's Hulkenberg. Here's Stoffel Van Dorn running well in the Simtek in P4, and he's on a longer strategy. He's going about the same sort of pace as the Manners up front. Simtek have a very competitive package here this weekend, but Dixon got the more out of it initially than Van Dorn did. So some fascinating pit strategies from our teams out there. We're going to find out who's going to be the next into the pits from the leaders. As Sato's going to get his run up the inside of Kobayashi and makes the place. Meanwhile, Davidson struggling in the mid-pack. But we're on board with Lucas Di Grassi. It's a Manor 1-2 at the moment, but there are differing pit stop strategies currently taking over. Here's Rossi about to lose ground to Marcus Ericsson in the Midland. So Ericsson's going to get his move on the inside line and makes that stick. That overtaking spot is obviously the most popular on the circuit, but it definitely gives us plenty of great racecraft and good action here. And it's that long straight that makes the big difference on this Vancouver street circuit. It's wide enough. You can get 2 or 3 cars there if you really wanted to. But obviously the driver's not risking anything they don't have to. But it's Hartley leading. Di Grassi second. Alguersuari is third from Van Dorn, Hulkenberg, De La Rosa, Bourdais, Wehrlein, Sato and Kobayashi at the moment in the top 10. There's your leader, Brendan Hartley, closing up on Paul Di Resta in the Lola to lap him for the first time in this race. And the Lola obviously having a few issues out there. Here's Jean-Eric Vergne. Jean-Eric Vergne making his move up on the inside line. And can Vergne get the overtaking move he wants? Diving on the inside, gets the place. Nicely achieved there. Good move. Here's Alguersuari in the Prost. He's lost quite a few seconds in the traffic. That's not helped him out as Hartley finally gets the move on Di Resta to lap the Lola. What a fast circuit this Vancouver street circuit is. It's got its tight and twisty spots, as of course have all street circuits, but this one definitely gives us plenty of good race action, and I have a feeling this is one that the teams will want to stay in the Retro Racing Managers League. At the end of the year, they're going to look through the calendar and make a decision as to which circuits will stay on the calendar and which will disappear. We already have a vague idea which ones they'll keep and which ones they'll get rid of. And I have a feeling that 3 on the shortlist to... well, there are 4 that are definitely on the shortlist to be dropped. Kyalami in South Africa hasn't been met with a lot of popularity, unfortunately. Oh, Sato! Sato's dropping down! An engine failure for Takuma Sato in the Onyx. Well, that's coloured his entire season. He has yet to finish a race this year since taking over that car from Bruno Senna, but he's been mighty quick. And yet again here at Vancouver, Takuma Sato's luck has completely deserted him. So it's game over for the Onyx. That is such a shame. Brendan Hartley continues to lead the way as Marc Genet gets his move on the inside of Di Resta in the Lola and manages to take the place away. I was going to say Kyalami not so popular, not as a venue, because Kyalami as a venue is still very impressive, but in terms of the Retro Racing Managers League, the racing at Kyalami has not exactly been fruitful for pretty much anybody. Within Group C, it was a bit chaotic, and also in the Grand Prix season. There's Scott Dixon, elevated now to 10th place as a result of all the pit stops, but he's obviously on his own strategy. But if he can get himself back into the top 10 on merit, then he's got a good chance to score well here today and redeem some of what he lost in the earlier spin from the lead in lap 3. Kyalami isn't the only circuit that could well get the chop. Bathurst was estimated to be a pretty decent venue, but unfortunately the circuit too narrow for a lot of overtaking, and it didn't really provide a lot of action or drama at Bathurst in Australia, so the circuit looks like it won't be returning. But Adelaide in Australia is likely to. Here is Diniz making his way through on the inside of the Lola. Has not quite been able to make that one stick. So we'll have to see how that one all finishes up. There is Pedro de la Rosa in 6th position at the moment, having made his first pit stop. Split strategies at Prost. The other 2 circuits in the calendar that are unlikely to return for a second season are Helsinki on the streets of Finland. Didn't exactly give anybody a particularly entertaining race in the end. A lot of chaos and drama. And not of the pleasant kind either. And there was also a little bit of negativity, obviously, last time. Well, quite a lot of negativity last time, I should say, to Buenos Aires in Argentina. It was a real car breaker. And obviously, we ended up with only about 9 cars finishing in the end. So that is a circuit that may not return. But certainly in Vancouver, it's looking good. Here is Lucas Di Grassi into the pits. So Di Grassi comes in. Now, he's on a 2-stopper. So we're on lap 31. Van Dorn is in the pits as well in the Simtek. There he is. So let's watch the Simtek pit stop, because that will give us a bit of an idea about how long these pit stops are taking. Hulkenberg is in as well. But again, a 2-stop strategy for Simtek. That is a fairly decent strategy. Into the pits as well comes Sebastian Bourdais. 8.3 seconds. It's a quick pit stop for a 2-stopper. But obviously it's a light fuel load for a 2-stop strategy. Lighter certainly than some of the drivers out there who are deciding to roll the dice and go for a 1-stopper. Oh, Tarquini comes together there with Hulkenberg. Tarquini and Hulkenberg have a little bit of a melee out of the pits as Hulkenberg rejoins and Tarquini gets nudged by him. So that ended up being a little bit nasty as Marc Genet pits, and into the pits comes the race leader. Brendan Hartley comes in from the lead. So Alguersuari in the Prost surely is going to go through and take the lead. No, he pits as well. And actually, Hartley has to wait for him to go by. So Hartley has to wait for Alguersuari to go past him before he exits the pits. So what's that going to do to the lead of the race? Is De La Rosa going to take it back away from Hartley? Not quite. A 9.8 second pit stop. There's De La Rosa. And there's Hartley. Look how close it is. De La Rosa's caught right up to Brendan Hartley out of the pit stop. So De La Rosa pitting early has now got an opportunity. And he's on a lighter fuel load overall as Dixon pits from P8. So the race begins now between De La Rosa and Hartley for the victory here in Vancouver. A fantastic race is coming our way. Deegan Fairclough, Junior Saloon Car Championship Scholarship winner. Again watching along here in Canada. Topher Smith, how did Hulkenberg and Tarquini not get damage? Incredibly, they ended up clattering into each other out of the pit lane, but they have just about got away with that one. They must have hit each other at exactly the right angle for each car to get away scot-free. Here's Pascal Wehrlein, currently in 3rd place on the one-stop strategy he's on. So Degrassi is rejoined in 4th. Wehrlein's still looking good for points here with this, because obviously the car out of position, but I do think they're going to have a decent shot at points here. Here's Wehrlein out of the final turn and down the home straight, and Degrassi's going to lap the 40 without too much of an issue as Delatraz gets out of the way. And then Alguersuari is behind this. Kobayashi in 6th, then Van Dorn, Verne, Courtney, and Hulkenberg is 10th in front of Tarquini, Freins, Bourdais, Davidson and Ericsson. And then in 16th place is Dixon in front of Diniz. Oh, and there's a car stopping. Car stopping. It's Diniz. Diniz in the Midland. Well, they've not had a lot of luck this year. I mean, they managed to get a decent finish last time out at Buenos Aires, when obviously barely anybody made it home to the finish. And Pedro Diniz got a brilliant 4th place in the end. But oh dear, the car is ablaze now. So that is well and truly over for Midland as the car pulls off. And that is Pedro Diniz's race over. Now, they've managed to get the car. Oh, he stopped the car, but it rolled back nearly onto the circuit. So the marshal had to get there pretty quickly to avoid that car getting stuck on the circuit. So the marshals have done so now. And I'm afraid it's game over for one of the Midlands. There's Pascal Wehrlein. 3rd position, being caught, though, by Degrassi, because, of course, he's on aging tyres. He hasn't got as much grip in those treads as some of the others have. Now, De La Rosa's lost a lot of time in the traffic here, being stuck behind slower cars. Hartley has been able to build up a 3-second advantage on De La Rosa. Make that 3.5 now, in fact. So the team are not going to be too happy with the way that the traffic have dealt with the situation here. But it's Hartley leading. De La Rosa's 2nd, then Wehrlein, Degrassi, Alguersuari, Kobayashi, Van Dorn and Verne. Here's Van Dorn making his move on the inside of the arrows. And that puts him into 6th place. Good overtake from Stoffel Van Dorn. That's taking on Kamui Kobayashi in a genuine race between those two. They're on the same strategy. So Van Dorn looking good for a decent top 5 finish if he can keep this up. De La Rosa frustrated in the Prost in 2nd place. He just hasn't got the pace of Hartley. Look at that. De La Rosa obviously on older tyres, but even so, he seems to have really struggled to have the pace of Brendan Hartley. I wonder if they've got a problem in that car developing. Well, it looks as though not. His lap times are in the 106s, which are relatively quick. But the Manor just seems to be the better car here around Vancouver. Here is the proof. Degrassi is now all over the back of Pascal Wehrlein in the BAR. Now, the Manor, of course, has about the same fuel load as Bourdais, Laps, Taki and Ui, but they have about the same fuel load on board. But you've got to remember as well that, of course, Degrassi has fresher tyres than Pascal Wehrlein, because Wehrlein has yet to pit and Degrassi has made a first pit stop. But the field is very interestingly balanced here, and it's not very clear who's got the better strategy of all of these cars. Whether one stop is the right way to go, two stop is the right way to go, or three stop is the right way to go. They've all got different schools of thought, as Marcus Ericsson is now about to lose track position to Taki Inui. What a great job the 40 is doing. Taki Inui is up into, what's that, 16th place? No, he's just unlapped himself, in fact. So Taki Inui, I thought he was in a stronger position than that, but that's a headache starting for the 40 team. And it definitely is Taki Inui, because Delatraz is a few seconds further up the road. Very impressed with Delatraz. Since getting those points in Buenos Aires, his confidence has definitely increased. And he's doing a better job here than he's done all season long. He outqualified Taki Inui. First time that's ever happened all season. There's Jean-Eric Vergne in 8th position. Now, has Degrassi got the move done on Wehrlein? Not quite, but he's definitely starting to hustle him now. As they come through together, Brendan Hartley has opened up the gap to 5.3 seconds. He's just dropping the Prost. And the thing is as well, I thought it was because the Prost was getting held up in traffic. He's not. Because De La Rosa's got clear track in front of him. Hartley's just disappearing out into the distance. He just seems to have the measure of this circuit with this car. And here's Dixon. That puts him past the 40 to lap it. So the Dixon bandwagon definitely coming back. So there is a very exciting race coming on here. De La Rosa still running in 2nd position. As he tucks in behind the Minardi. Dave Goddard picking my brains a little bit there. Come on, Jake. I had hopes there. Well, you've got some points on the board this year, which is more than 40 ever expected to get. And certainly more than we ever thought they'd get with Linglong tyres and a life engine. And Taki Inui and John Denis Delatraz as drivers. And that is a move for position, I do believe. Is that for position? Is that De La Rosa? Oh, no, sorry. That's De La Rosa lapping Marc Genet. Can't believe I'm saying that. Marc Genet in the Minardi has had absolutely no pace these last couple of races. And is down in 21st, having been lapped. That is astonishing. The turnaround from Minardi that were at the front of the field at the beginning of the year. They've just slumped out of position as several teams have found more competitive packages. But towards the end of races, Minardi still have a competitive race on their hands and get points home as Hulkenberg is getting frustrated again by the 40. Manages to dive up the inside of the arrows. At the inside of the 40 in the arrows. But that is not helpful. The 40 is not getting out of the way. Brendan Hartley, though, knitting his way through. And that's Ericsson getting through on the 40, is it? Well, he's having a brave go. But the 40 is not exactly being particularly kind at the moment to Ericsson. And look, it's gone right round the outside. So I think the 40s might be under some kind of investigation here, if they're not careful. Tarquini trying to come around the outside of, I think, Inui. I think it's got to be, it's got to be Taki Inui, that car, because he's behind Delatraz, and Delatraz is currently being lapped by the top 6. So he's definitely a difference between the two cars there. Marc Genet, what a difficult situation he is in now. Having won at Taupo, he's now a lap down in the Minardi. Meanwhile, De La Rosa, I should say, has come up to 5.2 seconds deficit, so he's trying to keep the gap fairly honest between himself and Brendan Hartley. But the Prost doesn't seem to have the same competitive package here at Vancouver that it's had at various points through the year. So they are struggling a little bit in Canada. How they'll go at Laguna Seca is still yet to be seen, but obviously Manor and Prost are both trying to close up on the tallies of BAR and Arrows respectfully, so they need to score more points than them in these final 2 races of the year. Looks like we're going to get quite a few more finishes. The reliability update has definitely helped make things a little bit more exciting through the year. And certainly this race, we're getting a real battle of it as Kobayashi gets back through on Van Dorn. So Kobayashi retakes the place on Stoffel Van Dorn. Meanwhile, Antonio Felix da Costa finds out what life is like lapping back markers. And I do believe his car is actually in front of his teammates. Yes, it is. So Da Costa is actually in front of teammate De Resta at the moment, but that is because De Resta has made a pit stop and Da Costa has not yet. So they're on a one-stop strategy. So Brendan Hartley leads the way. Look back, and behind the AGS is De La Rosa's Prost. 5.2 seconds is the gap, but Hartley has done that on merit. He's not just waited for an issue to creep up with the Prost, but De La Rosa is getting back on with it now. The gap has come back down to 5.1. Pascal Wehrlein is third on a one-stop strategy. Lucas de Grassi is fourth. De Resta is battling there to get past the 40 again of Delatraz. And that is not helping at all. Lola trying to get the job finished off here, but Delatraz coming around the outside again to hold position. They've got to be careful, though, because they don't want to trip over the 40s. But it looks like both Inui and Delatraz are just enjoying themselves out there. And Marc Genet loses track position to Pascal Wehrlein in the BAR, who gets through running in third position at the moment. It's not going to be long before his pit stop, of course, as we come towards the end of lap 41. But we are on lap 41 at the moment. De Grassi gets past the Minardi as well, and Jaime Alguersuari is there in fifth position. So still quite a few cars that could win this one. Still pretty even and fairly close as Marc Genet tries to stay out of trouble as his countryman Alguersuari comes around the outside of the hairpin to try and lap in. Jean-Eric Vergne pushing hard, trying to close up on Stoffel Van Dorn, who is a second and a half up the road. There he is. You can see the Simtek in front. And Vergne is looking likely to get some points, but certainly not as many as Brendan Hartley. And if Hartley gets the win, that really does give us a title showdown next time out at Laguna Seca. But Vergne is just doing his best to keep himself in the hunt here. If he can get to the finish while other cars are going to struggle, then there is still a decent chance. But of course, it's an important race for Hartley to outscore Vergne because the gap between them at the moment... Oh, there's a car in trouble up the road. And it's Kobayashi. Kobayashi with a suspension failure. Kobayashi is out. And I'm afraid to say, with Kobayashi out of the race, that means he cannot win this year's Drivers' Championship. Kobayashi is out here in Vancouver. He will not win the Drivers' title. But there was another car in trouble up the road. It's Marc Genet. That'll be why the Minardi was slow. They had an engine problem again occurring for Marc Genet. Well, Alex Goldschmidt's going to be absolutely livid. The Lamborghini engines have not been reliable. Fairly similar to that of the Alfa Romeos, in fact. But Marc Genet is now pulling off in the Minardi. And I'm afraid it's game over for his championship charge as well. He will not become the Drivers' Champion, which means only two drivers now can. Jean-Eric Vergne and Jean-Eric Vergne and Brendan Hartley. But if Hartley were to retire, then that would be Vergne's title wrapped up. Because, of course, Kobayashi needed a decent points finish today. He's on 96, and he's not going to score now. So Vergne, who has not scored since Fuji, where he got a point for fastest lap, he's trying to hang on to his slender lead in the title race. Brendan Hartley, though, still needs to win to really stand any chance of winning the title. But with Kobayashi out, Vergne is up to 7th and looking at 6 points. That would take him to 138. Brendan Hartley, if he wins the race, will go up to 126. So that would mean there's just 12 points between them. The way things currently stand, Vergne is going to have a title fight on his hands at Laguna Seca. In terms of the team standings, there's going to be a fight at Laguna Seca as well. But Arrows losing one car definitely stops their charge for the time being. And they have the same amount of points as Manor, of course, who are 1st and 4th at the moment, as De La Rosa dives up the inside of the Prost. He's not going to wait around if he doesn't have to get past Taki Inui. He's been frustrated by the Japanese long enough. Gets through and chops across. No point sweating hairs about it, as Robin Freins has got past Nico Hulkenberg. So Freins in the Super Aguri has made the move on Nico Hulkenberg in the second Arrows. And it's looking more and more likely that the Arrows' charge for the title is fading. Because with Hulkenberg only likely to score 1 point, there are 43 available in each race. 45 available at each race, I should say, of course, because pole position and fastest lap count as a point each. So it is a really difficult situation. Topher Smith points out that before this race, the only drivers who could win the title were Vergne, Hartley, Kobayashi, Jenny and Lotterer. But Kobayashi and Jenny are now out, and Lotterer can't win the title because he needed to take pole position to stand any chance of doing so. So now only Jean-Eric Vergne and Brendan Hartley can be champions up the inside. That is Vergne, and he's getting himself back into title winning contention as he gets up the inside of Van Dorn. He still leads the championship, of course, but he's up to P6, and when his teammate makes his one and only pit stop, he'll be up to P5, and that gets him right back into the hunt. Hartley taking big points off him, but if Vergne finishes in the top 5, that'll be a minimum of 10 points, so that will decimate the amount of points he'll lose by quite a strong way. Vergne is still very much in the hunt to win this driver's title. One thing is for sure, he can't lose the lead of the driver's title today, but he can certainly see it becoming a tougher obstacle. Courtney comes in. James Courtney pits, as does Robin Frines. So Courtney and Frines have both pitted in, and they are on the one-stop strategy, of course. So Courtney and Frines come in together. Hulkenberg has got Tarquini right in behind him, battling away. So Robin Frines and James Courtney both pit together. And there is Pascal Wehrlein running in third place in the BAR. It can't be long until he comes in for the pits. Let's have a look and see where he is on the circuit. Yes, he's coming in. So Pascal Wehrlein from third position will pit in at the end of this lap. So we'll ride with him for a little while as De Resta comes in for his pit stop in the Lola. And here into the pit lane comes Pascal Wehrlein. So through they come. De La Rosa is in the pits as well. That's for the second pit stop of 3, of course. And Wehrlein is in for his one and only stop. So De La Rosa pits from second. Now they need to put him on a better set of tyres, De La Rosa. He's losing far too much time to Brendan Hartley. Big shout out to Pascal Wehrlein from Tom Butterworth. Amazing pace on a one-stop, matching Hartley sector by sector. It's a very good point, actually. Wehrlein on a one-stop strategy. He's one of the drivers of the day out there. Certainly thus far, he's been absolutely giant-crushing. It's a 1-2 for Manor. Hartley and Degrassi. Alguersuari is third. Vergne is fourth. Fifth is Van Dorn. So with Vergne in fourth position and Hartley in the lead, Hartley is due to take 25 points. Vergne is due to take 12. So that will decrease the gap by 13 points, depending on who gets the fastest lap of the race, of course. So that would reduce the gap from 31 points to 18, I think. So that would still give Vergne a fairly decent cushion heading to Laguna Seca. But Hartley knows his task is to win this race. He's got to try and get the job done to have the best possible chance of a championship showdown. He knows it. But he also knows that a non-finish in this race or failing to beat Vergne will make Vergne the champion. Into the pits comes Vergne for his second stop of 3. So Jean-Eric Vergne comes into the pits. I want to see that stop as Van Dorn and De La Rosa go through. And yes, there is the proof. It is a 3-stop strategy for Vergne in the BAR. Completely differing strategies between the two cars then, as obviously Wehrlein went on a 1-stop strategy. So this is going to be interesting. Tom Butterworth points out that Vergne is stopping twice more. It's only once more now. He drops to 12th. And Jean-Denis Delatraz comes into the pits. I have to say the reliability upgrade to the field has definitely helped, but there's only 5 retirements. Kamui Kobayashi, Mark Genet, Pedro Diniz, Takuma Sato and Timo Glock all out of the race. So for some teams it's not great news. For the rest of the field it's pretty much the even strategy that they wanted from the season. So it's a good battle, and as we obviously run this first Downforce Grand Prix World Series to try and make the tweaks and adjustments to see what is the best way to go racing and how the best form of strategy is for each team to work on. It definitely gives us plenty of insight as to how to go about things for Season 2. As into the pits comes Gabriele Tarquini from 7th position in the BMS Italia. So Hulkenberg goes through, Davidson will go through. No, Davidson will pit. And that promotes Dixon up into 8th position. Great comeback drive from Scott Dixon. So Brendan Hartley leads the race in the Manor. And if he stays there, it's a title showdown at Laguna Seca, whatever happens. So Wehrlein. It'll be a very exciting run to the flag for them. And of course that is a good point, because if Hartley wins the race, and let's say for example that Vergne were to finish second, the gap would come down from 31 points to 24. And there are 25 available for a victory, 27 available if you get a pole and a fastest lap plus a win. So winning is critical to Brendan Hartley. Through they come. Oh, and that's a little issue there as Da Costa comes out of the pits. He gets nerfed there by the AGS of Rossi, and Ericsson sweeps past both of them. So a little bit of a moment there for the Lola as he came out of the pits. Antonio Felix Da Costa, a rude awakening in his second race in the championship there. But it looks like quite a few teams could come away with some decent points heading to Laguna Seca as the title fight is getting more and more intense. Alguersuari running third. Here's De La Rosa making his bid on Stoffel Van Dorn. Down the straight. More horsepower with the Ford engine, and surely he's going to go through. Yes, indeed he does. Into 4th position for Pedro De La Rosa. But of course, De La Rosa is on a 3-stop strategy. His teammate up the road, Alguersuari, is on a 2-stop strategy. So this race is still wide open. James Courtney making his bid to get past Sebastian Bourdais for 10th. As we watch Taki Inui in the 40. More fun and games, but Bourdais has lost the position to James Courtney. Courtney's got through. Wow, fascinating situation. Topher Smith wanted to see the DaCosta incident again. I do apologise. I was so busy keeping an eye on the championship standings and the battle. So we'll have to have a look at that another time, I guess. Right, Brendan Hartley. Oh, a spin for Hulkenberg. We definitely need to see that one. What's happened there? Hulkenberg's been battling away with Scott Dixon. Did Hulkenberg make the mistake on his own there? It certainly looks as though he did. So Hulkenberg coming through the S's. Yeah, look, he loses the back end of the car on his own. So Hulkenberg spins and loses the place to Dixon. And now Jean-Eric Vergne is right in behind him. So Vergne is going to try and take the lead into the first corner in this little battle. Vergne dives up the inside and gets through. 8th position. And Degrassi is down the order. Degrassi's in trouble, I think. Yes, Degrassi's out. Gearbox failure for Degrassi. Yet again, the Brazilian in trouble. He's had all the bad luck in the second half of the season for Manor. That is such a bitter pill to swallow for the Manor team and certainly for Sam Hall. But I'm afraid that's it. It's game over for Degrassi. Yet again. So that, I think, has definitely caused a major upset as well in the team standings, because Manor could have really done with a decent points haul here, and that would have closed them up to within a handful of points of the BAR team's tally. So with that retirement, that's definitely going to make winning the title harder for the Manor team. But for these guys, it's heaven sent. Pascal Wehrlein in 5th now, Jean-Eric Vergne in 7th. BAR just need to keep in the top 10 for these last 2 races, essentially. They just need to keep in banging on points, and they should still be okay for the team's title. You've got to remember that BAR have scored 198 points so far this season. Arrows and Manor, 167 up to this point. The only team to have confirmed they've scored a point from this race so far is Simtech, after the pole position for Scott Dixon, so they got up to 91. Still 8th in the standings, but they want to get past their century if they can. And with Van Dorn in 4th and Dixon in 6th, they've got a good chance of that. So, Hartley leads the way. 19 seconds ahead of Jaime Alguersuari, with Pedro de la Rosa 3rd on a different strategy. He's on a 3-stop strategy, while Hartley and Alguersuari are on a 2-stopper. So this race still has quite a long way to go. And everybody in the top 5, except for Pascal Wehrlein, still has a stop to go. This guy, Pascal Wehrlein, has genuinely got a chance of a victory here on a 1-stop strategy, because he's in 5th position, 37 seconds back from Hartley. Hartley's got to make another stop. So have all 3 of the cars in front of him directly, Alguersuari, De La Rosa and Van Dorn. Wehrlein could get a podium or even a victory here. The BAR is not done yet. And Wehrlein decided to go for a 1-stop strategy. He's made good use of it. Wehrlein was... it was looking a few races ago as if Tom Butterworth had made the wrong call in choosing Pascal Wehrlein to call up to the team. But he's being rewarded here big time. Wehrlein's absolutely flying. 38 seconds back on a 1-stop strategy. Hartley could still have issues. So could Alguersuari. Alguersuari, the guys up in front, Wehrlein's going to get the chance to go up into 2nd place if they all pit and there are no further issues. So Wehrlein is looking at 2nd place here. That is absolutely astonishing considering that he's on a 1-stop strategy. But Pascal Wehrlein was quick in qualifying and they said, you know what, we've got a chance. The car is competitive. We've got an opportunity here. We could do something very different. And Wehrlein is going beautifully. Here's De La Rosa. De La Rosa running well in 3rd position here. 27 seconds off the lead, but gaining ground. Stoffel Van Dorn is a further way behind. Alguersuari! Oh, Alguersuari is out. Gearbox problems. Gearbox problems for Alguersuari. And he's lost the car and parked it on the exit of the corner. De La Rosa goes through. Alguersuari is out. And that is heartbreak for Prost. More problems for the team. So, still some big drama here at Vancouver as the race thunders on. But for Jaime Alguersuari, it's game over. Gearbox failure. And he is stuck out on the circuit in a rather precarious place there. And the field is avoiding him. But the trouble is, he's in a precarious position. And the marshals can't really get to him there. And this game was invented before the safety car before safety cars were adapted into the game. So unfortunately, Alguersuari has literally just got to wait there in the car until the marshals can get to him. And there they go. They finally managed to get to him with a clear bit of space around the circuit. They've got to get the crane on pretty quick, which they have now done. But Jaime Alguersuari, I'm afraid, is out of the race. That is not good news for the Prost team. And that, by my calculations, I think that pretty much takes Prost out of the running for the Constructors' Championship now. I'm fairly sure. Well, no, actually, no, sorry. They do still have a chance of it because they can get 43 points next time. And they could still technically get the win here with De La Rosa. So Prost still have a chance. I do apologise. They still have a good mathematical chance to win the team standings. But certainly for Alguersuari, it's game over. And gearbox failure puts him out. And that promotes Vergne to 4th. Dixon to 5th. Good comeback drive for the Simtech. And Vergne up into 6th place. But De La Rosa, Van Dorn and the leader, Brendan Hartley, all still have to make a pit stop. So the man who seems to have got the strategy bang on here is Pascal Wehrlein. But he is losing time to Hartley. And the more time he loses, the gaps come down to 41 seconds now. So the more time he loses, the harder it's going to be for him to be in a competitive situation. So he's got to be very careful how he goes about things here. But Hartley is your race leader. De La Rosa's 2nd, then Van Dorn, Wehrlein, Dixon, Vergne, Hulkenberg, Courtney, Bourdais and Robin Freins. Then it's Tarquini 11th in front of Davidson. Da Costa in 13th for Lola. Then Marcus Ericsson and Paul Di Resta. And then we've got Rossi, Lotterer and the 40 twins. Delatraz and Inui. Alguersuari out, De Grassi out, Kobayashi, Jene, Diniz, Sato and Glock all out of the race. The latter from the lead. Very cruel fortunes for Timo Glock this season. And what that definitely does is take Timo Glock out of the championship equation. He certainly was a contender mid-season, but having 4 retirements in a row cost him any chance of getting the job done regardless. So a victory robbed once again for Timo Glock. Now here is the battle in the midfield as we watch Alexander Rossi on the onboard. There goes De La Rosa. So De La Rosa goes through to lap the AGS. And De La Rosa is 28 seconds off the leader, Brendan Hartley. So while they thought a 3-stop strategy was ambitious, I don't think it's going to turn into a victory for Prost unless something mechanical were to befall Brendan Hartley in the manner. And it's not going to be long before Hartley makes his pit stop. So there's still time for the race to change, but it is going to be tough to see how it goes, how that plays out. Let's head down to the green room and speak to some of our team managers down there. And we should be able to get a word with a couple of our managers then in the green room. First of all, to Sam Hall. Another ambivalent situation for you here because you've got Brendan Hartley leading the way, but Lucas Di Grassi, no luck again.
Yeah, well, we said before this race we didn't expect Di Grassi to get to the finish, so we said that for the last few, so yeah, you know, it happens. But yeah, Brendan's got a whole pit stop advantage and some over the rest of the field, which is brilliant and concerning at the same time because we've seen it repeatedly with teams or drivers, Glock specifically, pulling out this kind of advantage and then retiring because they pushed the car too hard. So hopefully it'll all hold together.
And of course, this is a critical race in the championship fight for the team because you're 31 points adrift of BAR. You need to outscore them really to have a title fight at Laguna Seca.
Yeah, if we can outscore BAR, that would be brilliant. I mean, looking at Vergne and Vergne sitting 5th and 6th, hopefully we can... Well, you'd never wish bad luck upon a fellow team, but if someone upstairs wanted to smite a fellow car, then one of those BARs would be fine with me.
I thought you'd say something along those lines. Thanks, Sam. Let's have a word with Tom Cairns of the Prost team. De La Rosa in 2nd position. Hard luck again from Jaime Alguersuari, but De La Rosa is now really the last hope for Prost to have a shot at the title.
He is now, Jake, and I think what's worrying me at the moment is one, because of these back marks of which De La Rosa is trying to get past the Lolas. And another thing which you've pointed out is Verline's strategy. Now, the thing is, if De La Rosa was to pit now, he'd be 11 seconds behind Verline when he comes out of the pits. And with Jean-Eric Vergne breathing down his neck as well, I think that's going to be a huge thing, because we could be behind Vergne once all the stops are done. So he still needs to keep pushing no matter what and just hope that something happens to Hartley up front. I mean, realistically, at the moment, I don't think we've got a great chance of getting the constructors. I think it's more important about just getting good results now in these remaining races. And and just see what we can do. I mean, De La Rosa is still getting held up by the Lolas, which is not good news. It's agitated me quite a bit. And one thing I pointed out in the YouTube comment that I posted is the manner of which these cars are coming out of the pits as well, which has caused a few collisions as well, which I think there was a thing with Da Costa and I think it was Rossi who was alongside him.
Yes.
And that's another thing which has not made me very happy about. But I think in terms of the race for Prost, I think De La Rosa can only salvage what he can salvage. Disappointed for Jaime with that transmission problem. That was the last thing we wanted. I mean, we wanted Jaime to get a good points haul after the disappointment in Buenos Aires. And that's all we can manage. I mean, we've got another stop to go with De La Rosa. I'm just conscious of where he's going to filter back out, because he's going to end up behind Bourdais if he was to pit now.
Okay, well, thanks for the update, guys. We'll let you continue on watching the race. Tough stuff here in the streets of Vancouver as the Grand Prix World Series continues to its logical. A tough old race going on at the moment. Brendan Hartley leading the way, 32 seconds clear of Pedro de la Rosa in the Prost. Van Dorn is third. Dixon is fourth. The two Simtex third and fourth place now, with Wehrlein and Vergne in the BARs, fifth and sixth ahead of Nico Hulkenberg. But the traffic has definitely made it tough for Dixon, Wehrlein, Vergne and Hulkenberg. They're all together on track now. De La Rosa's had some trouble with the backmarkers as well. That's brought Van Dorn closer into the game. So there's definitely going to be a tough race finish coming up, because it's obviously going to be a very difficult race to predict. Here's Stoffel Van Dorn in third position in the Simtech. And his teammate Dixon is behind. Now, Brendan Hartley's made the pit stop. Right, Hartley in the pits. Here we go. Now, this is the final pit stop for Brendan Hartley. And it's a very critical one. Now, he should get out of the pit lane without losing the lead. But obviously, it needs to go according to plan. So far, so good with Brendan Hartley bearing down the pit lane. But this is going to be the first of many stops. So obviously, this is the pit lane strategies working out to their conclusion now. So Hartley rejoins in the lead. No problem at all there. So that's all fine and dandy. De La Rosa is 11 seconds behind him as Van Dorn pits in the Simtech. So Van Dorn in the Simtech now pits from third position. Pit stop's critical at this final phase of the race. This is for the two stoppers to finish their schedule. So Van Dorn will rejoin, as expected, behind the BARs. Now Vergne has got past Wehrlein. That's critical. So Vergne has been able to get past Wehrlein, and that's because Vergne has another pit stop to go. So Vergne is on a 3-stopper. Wehrlein lets him go so that he can make as much out of this situation as possible. Bourdais has come into the pits. Hartley has rejoined in front of De La Rosa, 7 seconds in front. But De La Rosa still has another pit stop to go. Look, he's only got about 6 laps or so left in the car before he comes into the pit stop window. As in third position now, we've got Scott Dixon, but he's coming into the pits on this lap for a 2-stopper. Now that's, to a certain degree, not great news for Simtech, as they were third and fourth, but obviously they've got the pressure from BAR mounting and building up. But look at Hartley's outlap. He's got a second clear of De La Rosa already. Oh, Tarquini slowing. Tarquini. Gearbox failure for Tarquini. The BMS Italia was running in 10th place, but I'm afraid Tarquini is well and truly out of this race now. That is not good news. So the BMS Italia squad were looking very good there, as Dixon and Hulkenberg come into the pits together. So Dixon and Hulkenberg together. Now, Vergne has got ahead of his teammate Wehrlein, and the team are now going to work on the strategy, because Courtney is closing up on Pascal Wehrlein. But Jean-Eric Vergne is getting away from his teammate and is starting to build enough of a gap, because he needs to come out of the pits in a relatively competitive position after his pit stop. So this is a fairly decent situation now for the teams. But De La Rosa needs to continue to pull further clear as Brendan Hartley bangs in the fastest lap of the race. Now that's going to help in terms of the Drivers' Championship if Hartley can keep the fastest lap, because that's an additional point in the Drivers' Championship. So Hartley really starting to bang out the fast lap on fresh tyres. And you can see what it's doing. Look, he's getting well clear of De La Rosa. He knows he's got a good chance to win this title. But the only way to do that is to have a race-winning performance here and stretch out the gap. Brendan Hartley is on it. And he knows that a race victory is going to take the title fight to Laguna Seca, whatever happens. So, he's just got to keep going. De La Rosa's second. Vergne is third. But Vergne has another pit stop. James Courtney is incredibly in fourth place, but he needs to make another pit stop. Pascal Wehrlein does not. He's on a one-stop strategy. So when the pit stops play out, I think Wehrlein is going to be in second place. But it's all going to be about what De La Rosa does here. Now that he is on his run to the final pit stop. Oh, Taki Inui retiring. Taki Inui in the 40 comes to a standstill. Gearbox failure for him as well. Now, of all of the failures that are likely to strike in Vancouver, gearbox trouble is, I suppose, one of the more likely because there are so many gear changes around this circuit. Because there's a lot of fast corners and sweepers into tight hairpins and chicanes, so there is a lot of work on the gearbox. We're on lap 64 now of 90. They are going quickly, but as a result of that, it's obviously going to be a tight old race to the finish. And it's still not too clear who's going to get the victory, because Hartley has the lead. He's got another pit stop to come, but Hartley needs to be careful how hard he pushes. The Manor is not the most bulletproof car. Scott Dixon gets the fastest lap in. So Dixon, obviously wanting some recompense for the race earlier, having spun out of the lead, he could have had the victory today, Scott Dixon. So he's got pole position from earlier. He wants the fastest lap at least. If he can't have a clean sweep, he'll show what he could have done. And Dixon is in 8th place, having done, I think, his final pit stop. Dixon is on a 3-stopper. My apologies. Well, let's just double check and remind ourselves, because Hartley's going to the end. De La Rosa's got a handful of laps left before he makes his pit stop. Vergne has a handful of laps left before his third and final pit stop. James Courtney does as well. So Courtney is also on a 3-stopper. Wehrlein is going to the end in the BAR, as is Van Dorn. Now, this is fascinating. Van Dorn is going to give Wehrlein some pressure. These two could end up on the podium together. Freins has got another stop, a 3-stop strategy. Dixon's going to the end now. So Dixon going fastest of all is very interesting. Hulkenberg's going to the end. So is Bourdais. So is Davidson. So certainly amongst the front runners, we now know who's going all the way. De La Rosa's got another stop, as has Vergne and Courtney. Hartley's going to the end, but Wehrlein, Van Dorn, Dixon and Hulkenberg are all going to the end of the race, as is Bourdais. And there's all about a minute between the top 10, so there's quite a few shuffles in the deck still to come. But Hartley just needs to keep the car on the straight and narrow. He does not need to push this. He does not need to break lap records or go for fastest laps. He's done the fastest lap run. Dixon's gone faster still. What he needs to focus on, Brendan Hartley, is finishing this race in the lead. His teammate's already gone out with gearbox failure. He can't afford the same fate. If Hartley retires, Vergne is the champion. And Vergne is in 3rd position, knowing that he's going to pit out. Well, where is he? 28 seconds back from the lead, with Wehrlein and Van Dorn 9 seconds back. So Vergne is at best going to come out of these pit stops in 5th. Because obviously, Wehrlein and Van Dorn will go through. De La Rosa's got another stop, and so has Vergne. So Vergne is looking at a 5th place finish here, essentially. But BAR are looking at a 2nd place finish with Wehrlein. So in terms of the Drivers' Championship, it's still to play for. In terms of the Teams' Championship, BAR are likely to get a 2nd place finish here, and that would pretty much make them almost unbeatable at Laguna Seca. The points they would take from that would mean that Prost would pretty much be out of the contest. And Manor would have a slim chance of getting the job done. Arrows, I think, would fall out of the equation. So it's a critical couple of pit stops coming up. Vergne gets past Delatraz in the sole remaining 40. Just 17 cars left now as James Courtney pits in from 4th. So in comes the BMS Italia. Van Dorn and Wehrlein go through. Now Wehrlein is closing in. Van Dorn's got past Wehrlein. My apologies. Van Dorn is through into 4th position. So Van Dorn has got past Wehrlein, and that means that when the pit stops play out, Van Dorn is going to be 2nd. That's a critical overtake from Stoffel Van Dorn and the Simtek. That's going to put him into P2. So Simtek could still get something out of this race. De La Rosa's doing the best he can to close up on Brendan Hartley, but now he's pitting. He's pitting. So De La Rosa comes into the pit on lap 68. So De La Rosa in, but he's been held up on his way into the pits. That's going to drop him and cost him a lot of time. So Van Dorn's going to go up to 2nd after all this is played out. Wehrlein's going to go up to 3rd. Will Vergne pit on the same lap as De La Rosa? That's the critical question. Yes, he does. So Van Dorn's going to go to second. Wehrlein's going to go to third. Dixon might just get onto the tail of De La Rosa. Well, De La Rosa's going to come out. Where's Van Dorn? Where's Van Dorn? I think De La Rosa's just made it. De La Rosa's made it to second. He's just jumped him. That is incredible work from Prost to have pushed De La Rosa right to the edge of the strategy. And De La Rosa has actually jumped Van Dorn and Wehrlein on a 3-stop strategy. De La Rosa's in second. I could have sworn they weren't going to get out in time, but Wehrlein losing the place to Van Dorn has given De La Rosa the chance to get into second place. Tom Cairns and the Prost team must be high-fiving each other like mad. And Dixon is up to 5th. Van is down to 6th. And Dixon, of course, still has... Well, did Dixon pit at the same time? No, Dixon can go to the end. So Verne is in 6th. I thought he was only going to get 5th out of this, but no. It's going to be 6th place because he got out of the pits behind Scott Dixon. So Jean-Eric Vergne is only looking at 8 points today, while Hartley is looking at 25. So that means that Hartley will gain 17 points on the championship leader. And that means that there will only be a 15-point gap, I think it is. I'm sure I'll be corrected, but I think it's only a 15-point gap between the two heading to Laguna Seca. So it's definitely going to be tight. But here's Stoffel Van Dorn, and he's got a race on his hands now because here comes Pascal Wehrlein. He could have sworn that a second place was his at one stage, but Van Dorn getting past him meant that Wehrlein lost ground. De La Rosa in the Prost got through, and with the faster car, Prost can now disappear up the road and hold on to that second place. So Van Dorn is in the fight with Wehrlein for 3rd. 5th place is Dixon. It's a great fight back for Scott Dixon, one of the drives of the day. But for me, the driver of the day has got to be Pascal Wehrlein. On a one-stop strategy, he has got himself right up there in the mix. And could easily have taken a podium today. I'm not sure he's going to get it now. We're on lap 70 of 90. 20 laps to go, so it still could change. But certainly on a great battle, certainly with a great battle, it's going to be a valiant effort from Pascal Wehrlein to be in 4th place. But Brendan Hartley leads by 37 seconds now to Pedro De La Rosa in 2nd. Van Dorn is 3rd for Simtech, and 4th is Wehrlein. There they are. Van Dorn and Wehrlein. 3rd and 4th place. Dixon in 5th place. Amazing fight back from Scott Dixon in this race. Oh, and that's Hulkenberg. That's exactly the same sort of issue. That was Delatraz coming out of the pits, and Hulkenberg left with nowhere to go. Let's have a look. Delatraz gets out of the pits. Oh, and he nudges Hulkenberg. Well, that is a big problem. And Hulkenberg's actually lost a place because of that. Hulkenberg drops to 8th behind Courtney. And I'm afraid Jean-Denis Delatraz is going to get the book firmly thrown at him for that one. So, big problems then in the race. And obviously it's now a difficult situation. Because obviously the stewards are going to need to have a look at that one, essentially. And in fact, I'm being told that there is now an investigation going on. But it's 2 investigations. One for Da Costa and one for Delatraz. Now, that's for the same incident. But Topher Smith says what we were all thinking. What was Delatraz doing? Well, Dave Goddard coins it as wallop straight in. It had to happen at some point during this season, didn't it? But now, both Felix Da Costa and Jean-Denis Delatraz are under investigation from the stewards for their manoeuvres. So that's going to be an interesting situation. And obviously both drivers wanted to stay out of trouble. But that was certainly a situation they did not want to put themselves into. And unfortunately now that means that essentially they are going to be in a very difficult situation. Obviously the pit lane entry is there on the inside, but they need to watch how they exit. And the teams needed to be on their A game really to alert the teams that the drivers were coming through. Now, De La Rosa is 33.9 seconds now behind Hartley after his pit stop. But he's trying to get away from Van Dorn, but Hartley is pushing like stink. Hartley has the faster car here. So he's getting away from the Prost, but Van Dorn and Wehrlein are not a million miles away from De La Rosa. And the race officials have just informed us There are back of the grid penalties issued for Antonio Felix da Costa and Jean-Denis Delatraz for the final round of the championship at Laguna Seca for their actions on circuit. Well, that's basically the two incidents were very similar. And da Costa's got a back of the grid penalty, so has Delatraz, so they will start 25th and 26th at the last round of the championship at Laguna Seca, as there goes Robin Freins battling with Sebastien Bourdais. And Freins is going to get up the inside and take 9th place away. Brendan Hartley just comes off the throttle a little bit earlier to allow that battle to play out a little bit and to just let them do their worst. De La Rosa still hanging on to this second place, but he's getting away from Van Dorn and Wehrlein, who are having a terrific fight for third position now. There they are, Van Dorn. That's an absolutely incredible battle. So Van Dorn running well there in third position. Wehrlein is there in fourth. We're riding on board with Scott Dixon. I'm answering Tom Butterworth's question. No, he does not have to pit again, because he wanted to know if Butterworth was obviously interested in Scott Dixon's pace. We all are, because he's up to 5th position from the back of the grid. So Dixon has really saved his bacon and certainly gained back some honour within the Simtech team after dropping it in the lead earlier. He's made the mistake, but the fight back to 5th position is absolutely astonishing. And he's only 5 seconds off Pascal Wehrlein, with Jean-Eric Vergne in 6th place, dropping back from Dixon. Vergne is not catching Dixon at all. So it looks like a 6th position finish is all that Vergne can get from this race, unless there are more major shenanigans out there. But we're on lap 74 of 90, and we're getting towards the 75th lap out of 90. So essentially the pit stops are now all done and dusted as we watch this race unfold into the closing stages. I'm fairly sure everybody now has made their final stops. Just checking through and making sure we don't have another pit stop to come, in which case it is a case of just allowing the race to play out to the finish. And indeed, everybody is now racing to the flag. No more pit stops. If anybody pits in now, you know it's not scheduled. So Hartley is 32 seconds ahead of Pedro De La Rosa. De La Rosa making up ground on Hartley through the traffic. But Hartley doesn't need to panic about that. He's lapped Bourdais, and now he's closing up to lap Robin Freins. But there's a little issue up the road, because that's Hulkenberg getting held up by the 40. Robin Freins and the Super Aguri will move aside and let the leader go. There goes the Hartley Manor. So Manor goes through. Remco van England says Lola has a subscription on incidents this season. They've certainly got themselves into some dire straits. Di Resta has penalties. Wolf has had a race ban. And now Da Costa has a back of the grid penalty as well. So he and Delatraz will now be starting for the back row. Not that it made any difference to Dave Goddard. Delatraz starts every race at the back anyway. Bless him. So Hartley out in front. De La Rosa second. Van Dorn, Wehrlein, Dixon and Vergne. Then James Courtney. Points on the board for BMS Italia if it stays like that. Hulkenberg fighting back after his spin earlier. In 8th place. There he is, in fact. About to be lapped by Brendan Hartley. 9th is Freins and 10th is Bourdais. And they are very close in behind. Now this is a problem for Hartley. He's got to be careful here. He's got to knit his way through gently. And in fact, Hartley gets boxed in. Freins has unlapped himself. Bourdais is going to come back at him. So Hartley needed to be very careful there. The 40 is causing all sorts of difficulties. Delatraz is now being lapped by Brendan Hartley, but Hartley had to really bail out of that one. That will have cost him a couple of seconds. But more than that, it sets Sam Hall's heartbeat skipping a few, because that could have been a very nasty incident there for the Kiwi, but Brendan was sensible. He just reined in the power. He lost time because he's got time in hand to lose, so he didn't have to push himself too hard there. But that was a stressful situation, the likes of which Manor definitely didn't need. So Hartley has lapped Bourdais. Now Hulkenberg and Freins have got away from these two a little bit. There they are up the road. And that's not good news if you're Bourdais, but Sebastien has a chance here to get back on terms with Hulkenberg and Freins. If he can stay relatively in the slipstream of Brendan Hartley, he can close on the back of them and have another go. But Freins is having a look at Nico Hulkenberg. So Robin Freins may still get a chance to get past Nico Hulkenberg here. De La Rosa, though, still running well in second in the Prost. A fascinating race. And this has turned into a real duel. And I have to say, the reliability upgrades, yes, we have had retirements, but certainly nowhere near as much as we had at Buenos Aires. And the race is still an absolute thriller. Hartley, De La Rosa, Van Dorn, Vergne, Dixon, Vergne. A Manor, a Prost, the Simtex and the BARs in the top 6. As Brendan Hartley just tries to stay out of trouble. And he's up amongst the drivers who are particularly quick racers, who are potential race winners themselves, to lap them. So he's got to be careful how he goes about it. And catching Delatraz in the midst of all that very nearly threw it all away. So he can't really afford to rest easy yet. 28 seconds is now the gap. That's how much time Hartley lost in all of that. De La Rosa is second place, less than half a minute back. Here comes Freins, making his bid on the inside of Hulkenberg, and Freins is through. So Freins is through on Hulkenberg now. That's going to bring Brendan Hartley closer to the back of that queue. Topher Smith points out that they could hear the panic from the Manor garage when Hartley was coming up to lap Hulkenberg, and that was why. Van Dorn, meanwhile, has got pressure of his own because Pascal Vergne has caught him back up. So these two are now nose to tail. Fairly exciting stuff between these two, and that's the final position on the podium. Absolutely amazing. Tom Butterworth pointing out that Dixon is going to spin, drop to the back, and still get on the podium. I'm not sure if that's the case, but he's in 5th position, certainly. He's only 5 seconds away from Van Dorn and Vergne. He is catching them, but I don't know if he's going to catch them fast enough to make a run at the podium. The only way that's going to happen is if they get caught up in traffic. And to be fair, Dixon is making work of that. He's made a 1.5 seconds in that last sector alone. So Dixon could still make his way to the podium here. No wonder Tom Butterworth is a little nervous, because he's trying to get Pascal Vergne to go for Van Dorn as soon as is humanly possible, but Dixon is bearing down on both of them. This is not over yet. De La Rosa hanging on to second. He can't afford to get involved in any of this. He just wants to bring the Prost home in second. He doesn't need to push too hard. He doesn't need to stress. He doesn't need to overwork the car. Just get the points in the bag. 18 points for Prost. Stands them a great chance of overtaking Arrows in the team standings. A third in the constructor standings would be a great return for Prost's efforts this year. But it is looking less and less likely now that the Prost team are going to get the title won. They needed BAR to have another bad day. In fact, everybody needed BAR to have another bad day, but that is unlikely now. They are 4th and 6th, and that's a good haul of points for BAR. In fact, that is a total of 20 points for BAR if they stay 4th and 6th place. And that's definitely going to help them out as we head to the final round at Laguna Seca in Monterey, California. Look how quickly Dixon's getting onto the back of these two. He really is chomping at the bit now. So Dixon is making up for his earlier misdemeanor, that's for sure. Here comes Hartley lapping Robin Freins. But Scott Dixon is the man on the move. He has the fastest lap, we already know that. But he is chopping away at Van Dorn and Vergne. If they get held up by traffic, Scott Dixon has a crack at the podium on the march. And a 3rd place finish after throwing away the victory on the first lap would be an absolutely unbelievable comeback. Here he comes, onto the back straight. Dixon was the fastest man all weekend, thanks to his run in qualifying. Here's De La Rosa. Only a few seconds up the road from the Van Dorn-Vergne battle, of course. He's only about 11 seconds ahead of it. So this is turning into quite a thrilling end. We've got 10 laps to go. Hartley still hanging on in front of De La Rosa, and that is only going to take about 10 minutes, of course, because these laps are only just over 60 seconds. So what a brilliant race it's been for Brendan Hartley and Manor. They are still out in front. Vergne in 6th and Hartley in the lead. Should take this title fight to Laguna Seca. But this battle for 3rd is where it's really at. Pascal Vergne swarming around behind Stoffel Van Dorn, and that's why, because in the background there comes Scott Dixon. And he needs to get on with it, and they've got traffic. They've got traffic coming, so this is not going to be easy for them. Now, if I'm Pascal Vergne, I need to make the overtaking move now, as soon as possible, because they've got traffic coming up, and he needs to be the first one to lead that run. So Vergne is trying to close up on the back of the Ilmor, but the Ilmor engine has more power in it, more grunt than the Playlife. So at the moment, Vergne is not able really to get a decent run on Stoffel Van Dorn enough to close up. He needs to wait for an opportunity in the traffic. But they're going to get held up behind, first of all, Ericsson and then Da Costa in the Lola. And there's Dixon. There's Dixon in the background. He really is catching them now. So this is going to be a three-way fight for the final step of the podium. De La Rosa in second. There he comes over the line. 26 seconds back on Hartley. That's not a worry for Hartley at all. He doesn't need to be more than a second in front of De La Rosa, essentially. He's just bringing it in. He doesn't need to panic here. But it looks like we're going to get two title showdowns in the drivers and in the constructors standings at Laguna Seca. We wanted the title fight to go to the final race, and that looks like exactly what's going to happen. De La Rosa on the back straight. Here's Van Dorn. There's Verline. And there's Dixon in the background. Oh, it's getting tight. Now, Verline needs to get this overtaking move done. He needs to do it quick, because that's Ericsson in front. Tom Butterworth telling us that fingernails are being bitten. It's a tight old race here. There's a good chance that BAR can still win this constructors title, but situations like this don't help. Brendan Hartley trying to come around the outside of Nico Hulkenberg to lap him. Now, that's a tough situation. Hartley gets through, though. So, this is absolutely astonishing. So, it'll be a tough one. Now, Remco van Engelen brings up an interesting point. What if Hartley and Verne are both classified as first in the championship if they score no points or DNF in the last race? Essentially, I think he wants to know who would win the title if they tied for points. Well, I can tell you that if they were to tie for points in the title fight, on countback, the title would go to Hartley if they drew the situation they're currently in, because Hartley would have, well, no, it depends on how they tie for points, essentially, because it would come down to the final race. But if Hartley were to, say, get a second place to tie the title fight with Verne, then essentially it would be, well... Oh, De Resta's had an off. De Resta's had a problem. De Resta's had an off there, and fortunately Verne is able to lap him without too much of a drama. But essentially, if Hartley were to tie the title race and get them equal on points by finishing in second place, this is critical, because they'd have 3 wins apiece if it finishes like this. But if Hartley were to tie the title by finishing second, he would win on countback because he'd have a second and a third. Verne has not finished third on the podium this year. So on countback, if they drew, if Hartley took a second place finish at the final round at Laguna Seca, then Hartley would win it on countback. That's how close it is. So this title fight is going right down to the wire at Laguna Seca. De La Rosa in second place still. Now, there's a good chance for De La Rosa to be third in the driver's title race because he's going to finish in second place and get 18 points on the board. That's going to overtake Lotterer, Gene and Kobayashi. So De La Rosa is going to move up into third in the driver's standings. He couldn't win the title coming into this round because he lost his chance at Buenos Aires. The title was gone as far as he was concerned there, but he can still run a good race to the finish here and grab third in the driver's standings. And there is going to be a monumental battle for third in the driver's standings, because if De La Rosa gets that position... No, in fact, he's going to be fourth in the driver's standings, 2 behind Kobayashi, in fact. So it's still going to be a great fight for third in the driver's standings at Laguna Seca, as well as a fight for the title. Now, Van Dorn is still under increasing pressure from Pascal Wehrlein. We're on board with Brendan Hartley. But not only is Van Dorn under pressure from Wehrlein, Dixon has caught them both. Dixon is now just a second behind them. Let's have a look at it. There's Van Dorn, there's Wehrlein, there's Dixon. So the 3 cars are absolutely together with 5.5 laps to go, essentially, for them. So the race is definitely game on for these 3 cars. The 2 Simtex and the BAR. Scott Woodwis and Tom Butterworth on the pit wall. A tough old race to the flag, this, here at Vancouver. And I have to say, full credit to the managers. They ganged up on me at the end of Buenos Aires and said, we need to sort something with the reliability issues. It needs to be fixed. They were right. We took the decision to improve everybody's reliability to a certain degree. And what a race it's given us at Vancouver. They were right. So with 5 laps to go, Van Dorn, Wehrlein, Dixon. The final fight for the podium place is game on. And what a showdown. They've got Da Costa in the Lola in front of them. Antonio Felix Da Costa in the Lola is going to cause them a bit of a headache if they're not careful. So down the back straight. A tough fight is about to begin here. Wehrlein doesn't have the straight line grunt, but he does have mechanical grip. Dixon does have the straight line speed. So he is going to catch Wehrlein, I think, before Van Dorn is caught by Wehrlein. Now that is critical, but Van Dorn needs to get on with this because he's a sitting target there in third position. He's got Wehrlein and Dixon breathing down his neck. And that's the last place on the podium coming to play here. Such a tough fight. Verne is going to finish 6th because he's not going to be close enough to these 3 by the end of the race. But what a showdown for the final place on the podium. Van Dorn, Wehrlein, Dixon. And it looks like all 3 cars are going to be dueling it for the last 4 laps around Vancouver. So now they've got to close up on Da Costa. This is all going to come down to horsepower. And I think Dixon's going to get the move on Wehrlein before Wehrlein's going to get the move on Van Dorn. But Van Dorn is getting held up behind Da Costa in the Lola. The Lola needs to get out of the way here. But the Cosworth does have good grunt on the main straight. So the blue flags are not going to be there. And here comes Dixon. Dixon's going to get his run on Pascal Wehrlein. Dixon's going to go for it and gets through. Dixon into P4. Scott Dixon moves to 4th position. What a fight back from the New Zealander as he bags P4. And that, I think, has sorted it out in terms of the podium finish for Simtek. It looks like at least one of their drivers is going to get to the podium. And Stoffel Van Dorn is now... Oh, Van Dorn's getting held up behind Da Costa. Da Costa needs to get out of the way. And Dixon's now going to come in, tugged in behind him. Wehrlein may get an opportunity. And the 2 Simtex go to battle. Van Dorn is nerfed out of the way by Dixon. Dixon gets through in a 3rd position. Wehrlein through in a 4th place. Oh my goodness. Da Costa really getting frustrating there. Oh, and Da Costa's nudged out of the way aside there as Dixon runs deep. Van Dorn gets tagged in behind. And the 2 Simtex are able to get through. And look back, there's Verne. Verne now has a crack at this. Dixon is 3rd. Van Dorn's back into 4th place. Wehrlein held up behind the Lola, and here comes Jean-Eric Vergne. Now he's in the hunt. Oh my goodness. Sensational end to the race here as the 3rd position battle is absolutely upstaging that for the lower positions. There is Dixon. He's away clear in 3rd. Van Dorn 4th. Wehrlein 5th. And now Verne is getting frustrated behind Da Costa. Absolutely furious. Well, this race is definitely giving us plenty of drama right to the bitter end. But that was absolute carnage sat behind the Lola of Felix Da Costa. And I don't think that's going to make Topher Smith particularly happy either. His young gun, his reserve driver, if you like, getting a real issue, a real spanner thrown into the works there. But Simtek have got their cars through into 3rd and 4th. Van Dorn is down and out of the podium. He won't be happy about that. But Dixon has got through into 3rd position. Tom Butterworth's prediction is absolutely bang on. Can of worms to table 1, he says. But he's absolutely spot on the mark. And there is Pedro De La Rosa running through in 2nd place. He is about to take 3rd position in the Drivers' Championship. No, sorry, 4th position in the Drivers' Championship. Just 2 points behind Kobayashi. And that will be a showdown when they come to the next round of the championship with the goodness sake of it. Here is Brendan Hartley. Now we have got a title showdown. It couldn't really be set up any better than this, and it will be a mano a mano straight fight for the title. So this is going to be an absolutely thrilling run to the flag here. But Brendan Hartley is going to get the victory in fine style after a sensational run. He just took his time. He didn't rush things. He just got himself into his position. And now, just as Jean-Eric Vergne did, he is going to take his 3rd win of the season. When it looked like Brendan Hartley was one of the rank outsiders for the title. Now he's the man to take the fight to Jean-Eric Vergne. Here comes Brendan Hartley for the 3rd time this season. Brendan Hartley wins in the Grand Prix World Series. He wins at Vancouver. And we've got a showdown coming at Laguna Seca. Absolutely magical victory. Hulkenberg bags points for Arrows, as does Freins and Bourdais for Super Aguri and Onyx. 2nd place is going to come to De La Rosa, although he's nearly going to trip over Delatraz in the way through. So Delatraz just about gets out of the way for Pedro De La Rosa. Or does he? No. De La Rosa just decides to wait. But Scott Dixon has fought his way from the back of the field to get to 3rd position. There's De La Rosa crossing the line in 2nd place. Good run from the Prost, but Scott Dixon spun out of the lead and has taken it by the throat, grabbed his way back to 3rd position. What a drive from Scott Dixon! Epic, epic racing. Van Dorn is 4th, Wehrlein is 5th and very unhappy, and Vergne in 6th position in the BAR. What a motor race. What an absolute thriller. Courtney is 7th and Brendan Hartley is victorious here at Vancouver. What a performance. What a race. What a showdown it's going to be. That is absolutely sensational. So let's confirm it. Brendan Hartley with the victory after an hour and 40 minutes of non-stop drama. De La Rosa second. Dixon and Van Dorn for Simtech in third and fourth. Verline and Verne in the top 6 for BAR. Verne scoring crucial points to give him a better cushion heading into the season finale. BMS Italia in 7th for James Courtney. Hulkenberg's Arrows is 8th. Then Freins and Bourdais complete the points in the Super Aguri and the Onyx. Davidson 1 place away from the points in 11th place. Then Felix da Costa and De Resta in the controversial Lolas. Ericsson is 14th from Rossi and Lotterer. And then in 17th is Jean-Denis Delatraz. Nobody else made it home. Gearbox failures for Tarquini, Inui, Alguersuari and Degrassi. Kobayashi with a broken suspension. Engine failures for Jenny, Diniz and Sato. And Timo Glock from the lead of the race with an oil leak. What a dramatic race that was. And it sets us up for an absolutely glorious showcase at Laguna Seca in Monterey, California for the season finale on Saturday. What a race that was. And I think I speak for everybody here, I think, when I say that was the race of the season so far. Let's have a word with some of the team managers that made that race such an incredible fight. First of all, let's talk to Sam Hall. A 3rd win of the season for Manor. Absolutely incredible. And now we've got an absolute showdown on our hands.
Yeah, I will admit we didn't expect to win that, and definitely not as comfortably as we did. It was a bit of a shame, really, seeing the pace of Scott Dixon and the early pace of Timo Glock, that we didn't get to enjoy a battle with those 3 at the front. Because I think that could have been very, very interesting to watch. But I'm not going to complain. We've got the win, and we go on to Laguna and hopefully take the title fight to Fern.
It's going to be so close, and obviously it's a very fast natured track, but a very short one, very narrow, so qualifying is going to be so crucial. How likely do you think it is that Brendan can overhaul that advantage?
We're not counting any of our chickens before they've hatched. It would be nice, but we were so far outside in the fight for this. To be honest, it sounds like a cliche, but we're just happy to be going to that final round with a chance of taking the trophy.
Fantastic stuff. Congratulations to Sam Hall. Brilliant performance there. Tom Cairns, team boss at the Prost squad. De La Rosa, a fairly simple race for him in the end to get out in 2nd position, but with a 3-stop strategy and good pace, you must be quite relieved that a 2nd place finish was what he deserved.
Yeah, De La Rosa did the best he could, I thought, to be honest with you. I was a bit disappointed with the pace he had on the 2nd stint and the 3rd stint, as he wasn't able to close up on Hartley, and it allowed Hartley to have that breathing space for when the Manor came in for his 2nd stop. But Pedro drove a good race, stayed out of trouble. I mean, I was worried about the likes of Verline and Van Dorn and Dixon as well, that De La Rosa was going to come out behind him after his last stop, but thankfully he didn't. And he drove a clean race all the way to the end. Not very happy about the back markers, particularly Delatraz, because he's been involved in a few incidents today. But for Alguersuari, it was a really disappointing race for him as well, and going out with the transmission problem really could have done with both cars in the points. And then, as far as my calculations are concerned, we're now out of the running for the Constructors' Championship, which is not very pleasing to see. But at least it gives us the freedom to do what we want for the last race, actually go out and end on a high in Laguna Seca.
And it's a good point you mentioned, because there is one more upgrade to go before the season finale, so I wonder how many people will just throw it all into the engines and see what happens. Congratulations, Tom. Fantastic performance. 2nd place there. Scott Woodwis, sweating cobs on the pit wall with the Simtech squad, managing to come home in 3rd and 4th, with Scott Dixon in particular. That's one of the drives of the season.
What can you say about it, really? I mean, I lamented that he made a mistake very similar to Argentina, and then even when he was down in 26th, I mean, I even jokingly said at one point, if he goes on to win this race, I'll be astonished. And I think this is almost as good as a victory, getting up there as high as he did. The last couple of laps were quite nervy. I'm not sure what Lola was up to when we were trying to get around him. Yes, there was a little bit of contact, but only due to the fact that he was sort of holding everyone up. It's just a sterling drive, and it did make me think a little bit of what could have been, and maybe he could have been up at the front, and his pace could have pushed him a little bit further towards maybe challenging for the victory. but I'm definitely not complaining. Third place for Dixon after that drive, and a solid effort from Stoffel to show off some overtaking today and get fourth position. That's a mammoth haul of points. That's a really nice chunk of budget in the mix, and I think it'll give us nice little pot to play with for the final round to see if we can do something. And hopefully, if we can get the luck and the package together, who knows? I think the target for us has to be to end the season on a high and try and go for a victory. But yeah, not a bad afternoon's work in Canada. I'm very pleased with that.
Fantastic stuff. Our managers have given us plenty of entertainment here in Canada. And of course, on Saturday, the last race of the season at Laguna Seca in California, with a title on the line in both the teams and the drivers' standings, and the likelihood of an absolutely incredible showdown. I can't wait for it. It really is going to be something special in terms of the battle in front of us. We still have that title fight. Can BAR win the title, or is it going to go to Manor, who are obviously very close in behind now thanks to the last couple of victories for Brendan Hartley and the Manor team? And of course, as well as that, we also have the absolutely incredible scenario of knowing that when we go to Laguna Seca, there is a showdown. 140 points for Jean-Eric Vergne in the title race by my math, 126 for Brendan Hartley. That's just 14 points in it. That last race of the season on Saturday is going to be critical. Who will emerge victorious in the driver's title, Jean-Eric Vergne or Brendan Hartley? I'm Jake Sanson. Stick around to join us there on Saturday to find out who wins the Grand Prix crown. And on Friday, of course, we're back to business with the Group C Challenge.